Alright, welcome to Barack's Buddies Part 2. We're going to be looking at Tony Rezko. Who is Tony Rezko? I mean, the name's been dropped. We've heard that he's a convicted felon and a bunch of land dealings and some other really shady stuff. We might have heard that he was friends with Barack Obama, but what's the details? I mean, who is this guy, and to what extent did Barack Obama affiliate himself with Tony Rezko? So we're going to look at that, but before we do, I just wanted to share a few comments on a few things. And I love the media, how they're ripping apart Sarah Palin. I mean, this is just ridiculous. They're looking for anything possible to destroy her. I mean, it's, her 17-year-old daughter's pregnant. Ooh, so that somehow makes Sarah Palin, unqualified to be vice president. I love that, Barack Obama in his own book admitted that when he was 17 years old, he was doing drugs. So he was doing cocaine. He admits that in his own book. I believe the book was The Audacity of Hope, I believe it was. So, I mean, give me a break here. The question is Sarah Palin able to be president if, God forbid, something happened to John McCain? You know what? I believe so. I think she's a strong woman. She has changed the Republican establishment and the government establishment in Alaska by standing up against her own party, which sometimes, you have to do. She has reached across the lines and got stuff done. She stopped the bridge to nowhere, which was going to be this, mega project, which would have been a waste of money. John McCain does the same thing in Washington, cuts pork barrel spending. No one can argue about that. He's always been against pork barrel spending, And so, I mean, there's nobody even argue against that. Look at his record on that. He's voted against every pork barrel project there was. He even went against the Bush tax cuts at first because, had a whole lot of pork, stuffed in that little package, and he didn't want to approve it. So the reality is that, John McCain is for lower taxes. He will support tax cuts, but they'll be done evenly. So Sarah Palin's the same way. I mean, what other person would put the private jet, the governor's private jet, up on eBay? I mean, come on. You gotta love that. I mean, if that doesn't tell you something, she said, I don't need a private jet. Come on, give me a break here, She even said, you know what, we don't need the chef either. Alaska was going to pay for a private chef for her and her family. She said, you know what, we don't need a chef. We can cook. That sounds a lot like you and me. It sounds a lot like down-to-earth people. It sounds like somebody who has not been sucked into the Washington establishment, that when they get to Washington, the lobbyists are going to buy them out left and right, and we'll get nothing done for 4 more years or 8 more years. That's not Sarah Palin. And I think the liberals, the libs, and the liberal media know this. Mr. I got a tingle up my leg, Chris Matthews, oh, Barack Obama gives me a tingle up my leg when I think about him. That's what he said, And then Keith, Olbermann over there, Mr. Oh, wow, America produces great, That's why Chris Matthews and Keith Olbermann got fired, from the political anchor desk. Yeah, because they're so biased, it's ridiculous. It's killing MSNBC's ratings. There's a reason why Fox News Channel is, ranked number 1. And everyone's going to give me comments on this and say, oh, Fox News is biased. Oh, yeah, Sean Hannity. Yeah, but next to Sean Hannity is, Alan Colmes. And when you look at all the Democratic people that come on to give responses and give commentary, and the Republican, it's balanced. You hear both sides. That's what's fair. Even CNN started to realize that. They got the little logo now, it says no bias, no bull, because they're being known as the Clinton News Network ever since he got into office. So they're trying to balance themselves out. Americans don't like biased news media. We don't like being, told one side of the story, not both. Can you hear me on this? Let's get both sides of the story. That's exactly why creation and evolution should be both taught in schools. What's wrong with that? Don't give me church and state garbage. If you teach creation from a scientific point of view and teach evolution from a scientific point of view, and it's a theory of evolution, it's not even proven. Teach both. Let people make a choice. Give us the right information on both sides so we can choose and do the right thing. Don't give us one side of the story like the liberal media is doing. They focus so much on Sarah Palin's personal life and this and that, and did she write bogus emails and this Troopergate thing. How much do you know about the Troopergate scandal up in Alaska? This scandal, as they call it, a scandal, you know? Well, now we know a whole lot about it. That's why it's not being talked about no more. That this state trooper that was supposed to get fired tasered his own son, threatened his wife. You know, this guy was caught, cited for drinking alcohol in his patrol car. I mean, this guy was a bad nut. He needed to be cracked. And the police chief wouldn't fire the guy. I'm glad, Palin, got in there and did something about it. I'm glad she stuck her nose in. It had to be taken care of. Anyway, you're not hearing both sides of the story. People that watch these videos, the Republicans, conservatives, you hear what I'm saying here. You can, give me a shout out. You know what I mean? Don't ask me where that came from. But I mean, listen, we know this. But some independents out there and the Democrats and the liberals, they don't understand this. You're getting only one side of the story. Look into the Republican side of the story. Look into the conservative side of the story. Look into the John McCain side of the story. Look into the Sarah Palin side of the story. Look into both sides and make a great decision. Make it based upon your conscience, upon your faith, upon what you know is right and what you know is wrong. Don't listen to one side. Look at both sides. That's why I'm doing the Barack Obama thing. This is why we're doing Barack's buddies. I want you to see that there's two sides to this guy. The media portrays him as a great, awesome, Messiah. Messiah. But there's another side to him that's real shady. That really gets me wondering. Tony Rezko, born 1955 in Syria, is an American political fundraiser and real estate developer in Chicago, Illinois. He was convicted on several counts of fraud and bribery in 2008. Rezko has been involved in fundraising for local Illinois Democratic politicians since the 1980s. He focused primarily on Chicago area Democrats. For example, Rezko was one of Barack Obama's first major financial contributors. Well, anything else to be said? Nope. All right, we're done. No, just kidding. There's a lot more. Rezko and several others were indicted on federal charges in October 2006 for using their connections to the state boards to demand kickbacks from businesses that wanted to do business with the state. See, now, while the others pled guilty to the charges, Tony Rezko pled not guilty, but subsequently was found guilty of 16 of the 24 charges filed against him. Now, some of the charges included wire fraud, bribery, money laundering, and attempted extortion. Now, these came about as a result of a federal investigation known as Operation Board Games. The federal prosecutor was Patrick Fitzgerald. Now, the case went to the jury on May 13th, and after 3 weeks of deliberation, the jury found Rezko guilty of 6 counts of wire fraud, 6 counts of mail fraud, 2 counts of corrupt solicitation, and 2 counts of money laundering, but found him not guilty on 3 counts of wire and mail fraud, 1 count of attempted extortion, and 4 counts of corrupt solicitation. Now, according to CBS News, the, quote, high-profile federal trial provided an unusually detailed glimpse of the pay-to-pay politics that has made Chicago, Illinois infamous, unquote. Now, just a reminder that Barack Obama is friends with this guy and got started in Chicago, Illinois with its infamous politics. Now, Tony Rezko is also under indictment along with a business associate for wire fraud, again, related to the alleged sale of his pizza business to a straw buyer at an inflated price in order to obtain millions of dollars in loans from GE Capital. Rezko has pleaded, of course, not guilty, and these charges and the trial is scheduled to begin in 2009. Now, Tony Rezko has many ties to Barack Hussein Obama. In fact, in 1990, after Obama was elected president of the Harvard Law Review, Resmar Corporation offered him a job. And of course, Tony Rezko, Resmar Corporation, yes, he owns it. They offered him a job which Obama turned down. Okay, good for Barack. Obama did end up taking a job with law firm Davis, Minor, Barnhill, and Galland, which primarily worked civil rights cases, but for some reason decided to be representative of Resmar Corporation. Ooh, bad move, Barack. And he subsequently helped the company get more than $43 million in government funding, and whose former senior partner Allison S. Davis later went into business with Tony Rezko, and in 2003 was appointed to the Illinois State Board of Investment by Governor Blagojevich at Rezko's request. Now, on July 31st, 1995, the first ever political contributions to Barack Obama were $300 from a lawyer, a $5,000 loan, that was a contribution to his $5,000 loan, okay, from a car dealer, and $2,000 from 2 food companies owned by Tony Rezko. See? Starting in 2003, Rezko was one of the people on Obama's U.S. Senate Campaign Finance Committee. Now, okay, this guy has been convicted already. He's got a new trial awaiting, but Barack appoints him to the U.S. Senate Campaign Finance Committee?